Hello everybody, it's Ian again for another Doctor Who review. So, after the Christmas invasion last time, I decided to go back to the classic series. Because I think that there's a great abundance of modern reviews, as the modern series is what was coming out, when we had YouTube and stuff like that. And classic series is not as represented, and even though I was introduced by the modern series, I like the classic series more, I think. So I'm probably going to be doing more classic episodes. So, speaking of classics, this episode, The Remembrance of the Daleks, story 152, is a classic. It is the last appearance of the Daleks in the classic series. It's also the only time Sylvester McCoy encountered the Daleks, and one of Sylvester McCoy's best episodes, in my opinion. So, the basic plot of this story takes place in 1963, November 1963. And it supposedly happens just after the first Doctor left with Ian, Susan, and Barbara. And the plot is that the Doctor left this time travel prototype called the Hand of Omega in Totter's Lane. And the Daleks have come to figure out how to time travel. And there are two rival groups of Daleks, Renegade and Imperial, and they fight each other, and eventually, oh yes, and this does contain spoilers, and eventually the Imperial Daleks wipe out the Renegade Daleks, but the Doctor sabotages the hand, so that when they send it back to Skaro blows up, and then the Dalek ship blows up, and only Davros escapes. And this is also the last appearance of Davros in the classic series, I'm pretty sure. So, first off, this is a very good story. It was solid, and it includes one of Ace's best scenes where she attacks a Dalek with a baseball bat, knocks his eyepiece off, and a lot of stuff. I love the acting in this. Sylvester McCoy is such an underappreciated Doctor. It's not his fault. He'd make a great Doctor if the writing was better. And I think that he deserved better, because he would have been much better if he had better episodes. But this was one of his better episodes. The effects were very good, which is something I generally don't get to say about the classics. It was also the first time that we saw the skeletonifyingness of the Dalek when it shoots you, which would eventually come back whenever a Dalek killed someone in the modern series. Also, the first time the Daleks could fly upstairs, which would also come back in the modern series. In fact, the only effects that weren't that great were when the Daleks blew up. It looked like green paint inside, and so that wasn't that great. Yeah, and I think this is a 4-part episode, 4-part serial, but it didn't feel 4 parts. I think it was just the right length. A lot like The Edge of Destruction. It was just the right length. It wasn't dull, but it wasn't overlonged. This episode also featured the Special Weapons Dalek, which has to be my favorite Dalek of all time. I mean, that thing drove up. It just totally annihilated all the Renegade Daleks. Blew them up. Blew up the entire place, pretty much. The entire Renegade Dalek base. And, yeah. Some things that I didn't like about this episode is the fact that, Oh, another thing I really liked was, it actually, had a reference to Doctor Who, the show, in it. It was, oh, BBC News, a new science, a sci-fi thriller, adventure, Doc, and then the scene changed. Which I think is really fun, because it's only happened one other time, and that was, in Season 8, in The Forest of the Night. There was a bus advertising Season 8 Doctor Who. Yeah. But, one thing I could find it to fault with this episode is that when the Daleks move across the rough terrain, it looks like they're kind of trundling along. They look kind of silly. Kind of like they're walking. But they did that so that the Daleks could go across rough terrain, which they and off studio sets, which they couldn't do before. So I suppose it makes up, but yeah, I think this is by far the best Sylvester McCoy episode I've seen. The other two being Ghostlight and The Curse of Fenric. Yeah, Ace is marvelous in this episode. Ace is just marvelous in general. She's one of my favorite companions. And, yeah. I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, this episode also had a lot of humorous lines, like when, the Doctor is imitating Davros, and the Davros is like, unconquerable, invincible, all the bad guys whenever they tell all the stuff that they will be. The Doctor starts mocking him, and one of the things he says is unlimited rice pudding, and I laughed at that. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this episode to anyone wanting a Sylvester McCoy, or just an episode in general. And I would give this episode 8.5 out of 10.